Laci Green asked about the key moment that made you feel strongly against feminism. So let's see her ask the question here.
My question for you all, antis, what have your interactions been like with feminists and feminism? Is there any sort of, key moment that caused you to feel strongly against feminism?
Okay, Laci, I'll bite. My name's Tom Golden, and I'm a happily married guy, happily married for a long, long time, never divorced, have a grown daughter and a grown son, both of whom are doing very, very well. And I've been working with men's issues for many years, wrote 3 books on men and healing. And I run a website called Menaregood.com, a Patreon site, and a YouTube site, both of the same name, Men Are Good. And I was fortunate enough to be a small part in the wonderful documentary, The Red Pill, which I think is just a gift and is changing some of the landscape. At any rate, let's get to your question. Your question was about your experience, and let me tell you a little story about my experience, which I've never told before, so it's going to be a first for me. Back in the early or mid-1990s, I got a referral from a minister, and he called me up and he said, Tom, I've got this guy who's saying that he and his kids are not safe, that he's worried that his wife is going to hurt them. And can you see him? And I thought, I don't know anything about domestic violence. I knew nothing about it. So I said, let me call the local services and I'll get back to you. So I call up the local services and I tell them that I've got someone who's feels like their kids and themselves are in danger. And they go on and on about what wonderful services they have. I mean, a lot of stuff. We can put them up. We have lawyers. We have people to help them move. We have this. We have that. La, 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 la. I was like, wow, that's fantastic. And then we got down to the brass tacks of who this person was, and I mentioned that it was a guy. And at that point, everything changed. They said, no, we can't see him. I said, what do you mean you can't see him? What are you talking about? No, we only help women. I said, what? That doesn't make any sense. This guy needs your help. What's going on? Sorry, we only help women. And the conversation went longer than that because I was just completely flummoxed by the whole thing. And I still am, actually. But the next day, I called the clinical director there. I said, there must be some mistake. I talked with this person, and they said that you only help women. And the clinical director said, oh, yes, that's correct. We only help women. It's women who are victims of domestic violence. I said, well, I got one guy who would tell you differently. She said, well, sorry, we only help women. Wow, I thought. That was my first introduction. Before that, feminism to me was about equality. I was all for it, gung-ho. Yeah, let's make sure that everyone has equality. Let's make sure that the opportunity is there for everyone, both for my daughter and for my son. It's really important to me. I had no idea what was really happening underneath the surface here until I ran into this domestic violence piece. Shocked me. So I thought, well, the clinical director might not know that much. I'll write to my congressman and my senator. My congressman at the time was Connie Morella, probably a feminist, undoubtedly. And my senator was Senator Barbara Mikulski, another undoubtable feminist. And what did they say? They said the same thing as the clinical director. Well, we got to take care of these women. It's important we take care of the women. I was going, oh my gosh, I'd never seen anything quite like that. And of course, I'd called the guy back and told him I couldn't, that the services were nil for men, but that I'd do this and that and the other. And in some ways, looking back, I probably did the guy a favor. Because now we know that men who do actually go in person to domestic violence shelters to get help, who have been abused, are told that no, there's no help for them, that actually they are the abuser, and that they should get into a treatment regimen for abusers. Talk about blaming the victim. I mean, are you kidding me? Jeezy peasy. It's outrageous. I can understand how these men would feel furious and unhappy at that kind of treatment. So I started running into people who were working this kind of thing. I ran into Dave Burrows and Stanley Green and some other good people who were trying to right the wrongs of this whole domestic violence mess. And I was involved in testifying on the Hill for the reauthorization of VAWA and the first one, I think. And they gave the alternate people 2 minutes to talk. And I gave them an earful in 2 minutes, but guess what? It didn't make any difference. They were not willing to listen to anything. They were completely and utterly bigoted. I call them the Mobius strip of domestic violence. They only see one side. That's all there is. Unbelievable. Let's imagine that the federal government funded $1 billion a year for the study of white diabetes. Right? And white people controlled the program, and white people said, okay, here's who can come and here's who can't. And black people, if they came, they said, no, sorry, this is only for whites. Every person I know would look at that and say, wow, that's bigoted, that's hateful. Right? That's bigoted and that's hateful. But why can't they say the same thing about what's going on with the domestic violence crap? I mean, people are completely immune to it. Of course, gynocentrism is a big piece of that. But people are completely immune to it. And they still think, like I did in the 90s, that feminism is about equality. So time went on. And then in 2010, I think it was, I was appointed to the Commission for Men's Health in Maryland, which is great. I thought, finally, I'll get to have my say. And I'll write up something about male victims of domestic violence, because that's, of course, a health issue for men. So I was made the vice chair, and we had the meetings and blah, blah, blah. And then after we met for maybe a year and a half, we had our final meeting where we had written 4 reports, 3 of which I had written and 1 of which the chairman had written. And the committee said, yes, we like all 4. They unanimously approved all 4 to go in. And I thought, finally, we'll get something as a government document that can talk about this whole thing of male victims of domestic violence. I was excited. But what do you think happened after that? Well, I didn't trust the support staff. The support staff was the Department of Health, and they'd been sort of questionable all along. When they were supposed to be our support and help with research, and I asked for their help in research along the way during this year and a half, they wouldn't lift a finger, basically, because I was trying to find out about services for men versus services for women. They didn't like that idea. Well, at any rate, after they said, yes, let's turn all these in, they're supposed to go to the governor and the who and the what and the library and blah, 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 blah. And guess what happened? Only one of those reports got submitted to the governor and the who's and the ha's. That was the one report not written by me. The 3 that were written by me got deep-sixed. So I got a hold of the chairman. I said, hey, look, the only one went in. The other 3 never got in. So he gets in touch with the health department people and says, oh, our mistake. We'll get that done right away. Of course, they never did. And the whole story about this mess is going to come out as a chapter in Janice Fiamingo's new book that's coming out soon. And it's quite a story to tell. And what does the story tell? It tells about how our bureaucracies have been filled with feminist bullies who only see one side and take that one side. And if anything talks about men in need, it gets thrown out. Unbelievable. I'll also leave a link in the low bar to that report and the 2 other reports that I wrote. I'll leave an official link, which is on the Maryland state website, and also a link that's a little bit better formatted. You can have a look at both of them. And Laci, I hope you will look at this domestic violence report. It's not short. It's about 6,000 words, but it tells the story about how and why men became unknown people in the world of domestic violence. At any rate, at that point, I'd had it. And I started to really understand men who'd been through this gauntlet and why they are so angry about things. And a lot of times feminists look at these guys and they say, oh, he's so angry. What's wrong with him? Well, I can understand why he's pissed off. In fact, I've never gone through this. I've never been abused. But looking at what I know, I'm pissed off too. It's crazy what's happened in our system, where we spend almost $1 billion a year on domestic violence, and men rarely get more than a penny. It's crazy stuff. So that's my moment that turned me against feminism. And there's a lot of other moments like that. We could go and do 10, 11, 12 different areas that are just the same, because what is it that happens with feminism? Feminism has, first off, started off going, oh no, I'm tied to the tracks. Someone come and help me. This is a crisis. Then they do a study that shows that crisis to be the case. Then they lie about the numbers in the study, and they get the politicians all upset in a frenzy. And the politicians pump money into the feminist coffers. And then what do? They take that money and they build bureaucracies like we saw with the health department. They build bureaucracies that are filled with feminist bullies. I hate to tell you this, but a lot of our General Assembly bureaucracies are filled with feminist bullies who won't say a peep about men. We're really in dire straits. At any rate, that's probably enough for now. That gives you a general idea about my own perception of things. And, we always end, Laci. And Laci, please come and read that. Come see me again. Let me know what you think of it. I'd love to hear what you think of all this. And we always end by saying men are good. And in fact, men are good. Bless all men and bless women too, but men are good. Visit, subscribe, like, comment, all that stuff, and come see me on Patreon. I can really use your support.